Hello, thank you for tuning into the Natural Health Rising podcast. My name is Rachel Smith. I am a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I've helped hundreds of people naturally reverse symptoms of autoimmune diseases and other health challenges, from digestive issues to hormone imbalances. And in these weekly episodes, you're going to learn from myself and top health experts from around the world about functional medicine and holistic health tips to help you rise to your healthiest, happiest self. In this episode of the Natural Health Rising podcast, I have Mahryah Shain with me. Mahryah is the CEO of More Hair Naturally, which is the world leader in all natural topical stem cell treatments for thinning hair. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So can you explain, I'll dive right into all of this hair
Let's do
loss
it.
stuff. What are the common reasons that people even experience hair loss?
Okay, so there's a lot of reasons. There's an overarching reason that the majority of people suffer hair loss because of, but there's also like hormonal imbalances, hormonal changes like menopause or breastfeeding or childbirth. Then there's stress, which is a huge factor. There's environmental reasons. There's toxicity reasons. There's health reasons. There's environmental reasons. But the main overarching reason that people will have hair loss is because of two factors. And this is like when people have like male pattern baldness or female pattern baldness or just experience baldness as they or thinning as they get older. Generally, it's because of these two reasons. The main culprit is it's called DHT, and what DHT is when your body breaks down the male hormone testosterone, it creates a byproduct, and that byproduct is called DHT. It's actually dihydrotestosterone, but everywhere just calls it DHT. If you online articles, DHT. And if you've done any sort of research into thinning hair loss, you'll see that term thrown around. So basically, when the body breaks down testosterone, the byproduct is DHT, and it's generally just excreted. No big deal. However, as it's passing by the hair follicle, on the follicle, there's little DHT receptor sites, which for a visual would be a pothole. So this is, and when people say hair loss is inherited, what really is inherited are these potholes on the follicle. So the main culprit, your question was the culprit, is these two factors. It's the potholes on the follicle. I'm keeping it like the visual. I like the visual. It's a very simple visual to have. So I like that. So the potholes on the follicle and how many you have, and the DHT levels in your body. It's these two factors that are playing against each other that result in thinning hair. For instance, if you have no, like very few of these potholes, but a lot of DHT, you're still going to have some thinning. But if you have a ton of these little potholes and very little DHT, you can have a little bit of thinning, but not a lot. But if you have potholes and a lot of DHT, you're going to have a lot of hair loss. Now, the way these two interact is when the DHT passes by the follicle, it gets stuck in these little holes. And over time, as more and more gets stuck, it begins to cut the blood flow off to the follicle. So you have the follicle and it's getting clogged up, and then blood can't flow to it anymore. And so the follicle starts to lose its nutrition. So over time, as more and more DHT gets stuck on the follicle, less and less blood starts flowing to the follicle. The follicle starts to get weaker and weaker and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And then eventually it just dies. And when it dies, that's a slick, shiny, bald scalp. Is it dead? When the follicles die, it's just slick, shiny, bald. And at that point, there's nothing that can be done because the follicles are actually dead. So if somebody, male, female, doesn't really matter, male, female, if the scalp is shiny and bald, it's an indication of a dead follicle.
Okay.
Generally, if it's like an alopecia situation where you have like little circles that come up here and there, that tends to be more temporary, though drastic when you have it, because it's very alarming for people when they have that. That tends to be more temporary. It tends, not always, but tends to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because I've actually had alopecia clients and we've been able to reverse the
Mhm.
hair loss completely. But
Yeah,
like you said, it's like all these different things, environmental toxins, stress, their hormones, their
yeah.
nutrition. Um, when you are thinking about this, how can someone start to determine where theirs is coming from? Like if it is the DHT and this part's happening.
Absolutely. We talk to a lot of people, and part of like when people go to morehairnaturally.com, our website, we have phone numbers everywhere. And we always want people to call just for this specific reason, because we need to make sure we can help somebody before we'd like to make sure we can help them because we want to make sure that people get results and can see success and feel good about themselves and their purchases and their confidence. But when we talk to them, we basically ask a bunch of questions because in those questions there's clues as to what it is, and a lot of times if somebody has a pretty good like they have a healthy eating routine, their nutrition's pretty good, they move their body regularly, they're generally conscious of their health, they're in their late 50s, they're or 40s, 50s, 60s, they have had their hair's gradually starting to thin, like in the patterns on the back and then the front.
Mhm.
Generally from that they're not taking any kind of medications, they haven't had any surgeries lately. You can generally determine like, okay, chances are it's just standard male pattern balding, which is the DHT buildup, or female pattern balding, you know
And that's where you guys would come in and be able to help.
that's where we can help, but we also help with
Okay.
everything else. We also, because like medications have a side effect of thinning hair, but those side effects can be counterbalanced without telling people to get off their medications. But the thing is you got to be careful that you don't want to take an action that's going to interfere negatively with what they're taking, because they're putting a medication in their body and there's a lot of variables involved with that. So you don't want to have them ingest something that's going to possibly interact with it in a negative way. So we're topical, we're natural, we don't enter the bloodstream, so we're not going to interact with any medications. But like medications, stress, breastfeeding, all like these minor, I say minor because they can be helped easier than your standard, you know, alopecia. So I say
Mhm.
minor, but it's still drastic for the person who's going through it, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, can you talk a little bit more about actually before we get to the products and everything like that, how has the science changed over hair loss over the last like 50 years?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so since we're in the thinning hair arena, we always have our feelers out for what people have been doing and historically what people are doing, and literally people have always been searching for a solution to this, and they always will because it hasn't really like I believe we found like the most exciting and innovative solution to date, but it's not a cure. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's not gonna bring your hair back 100%. And so we're still looking. But like at one point in time, men would rub chicken poop on their head. There's always been like oils or weird devices. We have some pictures on our wall from ads from the 20s and 30s with people with these big metal canisters on their head hooked up to an electrical socket. I mean, like crazy stuff. But essentially what people use today, like the Rogaines, the minoxidil, finasteride, Propecia, all those were essentially developed in the 70s. So our so when we entered this space, basically, so okay, so I'm going to tie it all together. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
great.
answer your question, but I'm going to tie it all together into a little bit of a story. So all those products were developed in the 50s, and they're all drugs. They all have side effects, and they all have iffy success rates. Some they work, some they don't. But the side effects are kind of scary. Now I have every male in my family is totally bald. So I'm happy with where I'm at. But every male, cousins, uncles, fathers, grandfather, they're all bald. And so when my father started losing his hair, as the men in my family always have, he he kind of started panicking, as most people do when they start losing their hair. And he was in his like 40s, I think, when this started happening. And we've always been we've always strongly believed in natural, taking a natural and holistic approach to every aspect of your life. We've always looked for our nourishment from food. If we needed a boost, we looked to vitamins or some sort of natural supplement or homeopathy, some kind of approach that would enhance our natural systems as opposed to a foreign substance just trying to alter our systems. So when my father started going through this, there wasn't a lot there. There was things like, you could rub an onion on your head, you know, um, other like oils and stuff, which, okay, it's all the right direction. We would believe anything you're doing to make your life better is positive. If you're making choices and you're acting on the choices, that's correct. Just do that. Do that, because that's good. But so he started going down the drug route, basically. He didn't know what to do, so he started doing like the standard drug route that everyone was doing, and he started getting all these body issues. He actually started growing breasts because it started altering his hormone levels, and he was miserable, and so he stopped. Now my mother is Italian; she's from Italy, and through a family connection, she found this lab in the Lake Como region who was doing some pretty interesting. It had a pretty interesting natural approach to thinning hair. And so he got some of their products, and long story short, they started working, and then my family became the sole distributor of that in the United States. Now, that product was great, and it really just it helped with the DHT removal from the follicle, so the blood could start flowing back to the follicle. However, what was happening is that the hair wasn't coming back fast enough or strong enough. But it was making a change, but it wasn't quite the change that we wanted. We wanted something better. We still want something better, but we wanted something better. And so that's when we started our research. Now, because our idea was, so since the 70s, research into thinning hair and hair loss, it didn't stop. Like scientists they weren't like, hair loss, done. No more research, but still the products everyone was using were these same products. So like, well, what's happening here? Why isn't the market flooded with with new innovations? So we started researching that. And in it, we started finding all these incredible studies going on with very specific stem cells, with probiotics, with amino acids, that were all producing incredible results in laboratory studies, but they weren't in products, but they were all in laboratory studies doing like these amazing things. And so we contracted a lab here in California, and we're like, listen, there's all these studies happening. We want to take these ingredients that are getting these results in laboratories and put them in one product. We can put all of them in one product, but at the clinical strength that's producing the results. And it took about three years to actually do it, to figure out how it's done. And we did it. And at that point, we moved everything to California, and we took this approach to all of our product releases since then, of like finding out what's producing the results we want to achieve, and then sourcing the individual supplements that are doing that, and then creating the products based off that. Mm-hmm. So now everything's made in the USA, which we're very happy of, locally, about a half hour from us here in California. And so that's where the change is happening. But it's always changing, it's always evolving, and we're always looking to evolve and change with it. Because like I said, we're very happy. We feel like what we have right now is the best possible aggressive natural approach that is available. And our results, we're very happy with our results and our clients, but it's not 100%. And it doesn't, like, you're not gonna look like, Brad Pitt, or McConaughey, or I don't know, whoever has that amazing movie star hair, Julia Roberts, or whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We, we're not there yet. We'd like to be, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk more about those results and everything, but
Yeah.
you'd mentioned some side effects from other solutions. Can you
Yeah.
talk, do you know like more about those side effects for different
Well, they're all
options out
listed.
there?
They're all listed. They're all on the products themselves. We talk. I mean, we talk to people all day long, and I still take a lot of client calls as well. And we have people who, the big one is the sexual dysfunction. Um,
Okay.
that's the big one that people experience. But
Coming
there's also
from the modafinil
from the
uh,
minoxidil, from
or
the
minoxidil. Sorry,
minoxidil.
I'm saying a different
That,
drug.
yeah, from the minoxidil. And then but there's also just like general like drowsiness and like fuzziness of and like just various pains that people are reporting and
Mhm.
it not working as well. So they're having these like side effects and it's not working. But this is that's more anecdotal. I get a lot of my experience and what I've learned and known is a combination of research, but it's also a combination of just talking to thousands of people and hearing what they're experiencing and what they're going through. Because a big part of our of what we do is we like talking to people because we want people to win in life. We want people to achieve their goals in life because I know we're in the thinning hair space, and that's what we focus on as a company. However, it's bigger than that because it's connected to self-esteem, it's connected to confidence. And
Mhm.
we like to talk about how like, oh, we're not vain. It doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't, but the physical absolutely affects the mental. Absolutely does. So I mean, you stand up straight, all of a sudden everything about you changes, your energy changes, your viewpoint changes, your outlook changes. You put on that like cool jacket or that beautiful dress and you're like, oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
going down today. It's like, you're in your sweats you wore all weekend. It's not really like, you're just gonna eat popcorn and watch TV or something. You know what I mean? It's different. So it
Absolutely.
does affect it. And so we want people to like to make it find something about themselves they don't like, and then they make a definitive action that produces a positive result. And in that, they get that confidence that like, oh, I am capable of making decisions that work, and then which gives them confidence to make more decisions and more decisions and more decisions and more decisions. And then it just snowballs and it affects their life, it affects their friends, their families, their neighborhoods, their church, their environment, it affects everything, and then we can balloon out into a stronger society and world.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. That is such a good point. Like I tell people that all the time. If they just start making one decision and following through with it,
Yeah,
it builds their self-trust, their self-confidence, and like you said, that just snowballs into everything else in their life.
so true. There's
Hmm.
there's this quote by Roosevelt that I love. He says, um, the first best choice you can make is the right choice. The next best choice you can make is the wrong choice, and the absolute worst thing you could do is no choice.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and I love that because he's not saying like the best thing and the worst thing. He's saying the first best thing you can do is the right decision. The next best thing is the wrong decision. He calls it the next best thing is the wrong decision.
Yep,
You know, it's
absolutely.
yeah,
That reminds me of the other way to kind of look at that is like the best time to start was yesterday, but the second
yeah,
best time to start is today.
totally. Yeah, exactly.
It's like the
It's so
same.
true.
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
true.
So tell us more about the More Hair Naturally products and how those work.
Yeah. Um, sure, I love talking about that. So okay, so we have two products that work together. And here's our goal as with our products is and we use each product has different combinations of stem cells and botanical extracts and amino acids to help achieve the specific goals that we're trying to achieve. So the first one, we focus on the DHT from the scalp. So we want to get that DHT removed from the follicle, and we want the blood flowing back to the follicle. And we use a very high medical grade hyaluronic acid, which helps coat the follicle. And it's a lot of face creams have it. It's a very moisturizing substance, and it's found in your joints and your eyeballs and stuff. And so we like to it coats the follicles, the DHT slides off, and then future DHT can't build up, at least for a while. It can't build up. So, but now we get the blood flowing back to the follicle. So the blood's flowing back to the follicle, and then at the same time, we start bombarding it with stem cells, probiotics, and amino acids. So we're rebuilding it from the bottom and then rebuilding it from the top as well. So because the only thing that's really going to grow healthy hair is a healthy follicle. So the goal is to get that follicle strong again so it can start to produce its own hair. And then the other aspect we like to focus on is the scalp, because we found in our research two very important things. One is if the hair's weak or damaged, an unhealthy scalp environment can impede healthy growth. So we use a lot of probiotics actually to help rebalance the microbiome of the scalp, so the hair can actually start to grow again. The scalp can support healthy growth again. And then we also address. Okay, so another thing we found was that as the hair starts to get thinner and thinner, the growth cycle starts to get shorter and shorter, which is why a lot of people, when their hair starts to get thin, they can't grow it long anymore. It's because the growth cycle has gotten too short. So we use another set of, different set of botanical extracts to help encourage that growth cycle to get a little longer. So now that we're helping rebuild the follicle, now we're putting it in a position to actually grow by giving it space in that growth cycle.
Okay. Wow. You mentioned blood flow, and it sounds like increasing blood flow is a really important piece of it with the topical part. Do you also encourage people to do daily scalp massages or certain exercises or things that physically increase the blood flow alongside this?
We do. Actually, it's part of the application process is we say you massage the scalp for 30 seconds. And we say that, and massage isn't rubbing the hair. Massage is moving the scalp against the skull with the intention of increasing blood flow. And we say the reason we have that in is twofold. One is it does help the product absorb better, but also it does help stimulate blood flow. And if we could include that massage as part of the routine, which is why we have it there. So hopefully you're including in the routine, that's going to help with the scalp health as well. So that's kind of why we have it in there, because it's something that if something's a routine, part of a routine, you're just going to do it. So it has a little double benefit in it. But blood flow is so important for every aspect of your body. So if there's something that you can do to help that, then that should be done regardless, you know?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of women who they are noticing their hair loss. I would say most of the people that come to me it's actually stress related or hormone related. So it's it's actually easier fixes for us.
And for us too, for us as well.
Yeah, but they all say the same thing. They go, Rachel, I haven't been washing my hair as much. I've been not brushing it as much because they think that they're going to rip all the hair out by touching their head.
Right.
But then when I think of the blood flow part, I'm like, well, wait a second. We would want to be stimulating the scalp. Is there any truth to, not washing the hair and not doing these things while people are freaking out about their hair falling out?
It's all relative. And so in that, if you're using shampoos, harsh store-bought shampoos that are stripping all the oils from your hair and just doing nothing but drying out your scalp, then yeah, that's pretty bad. So if somebody's purchasing a shampoo, they have to be very careful that it doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. They should get something with minimal ingredients. I mean, there's a lot of ingredients because it's a soap product, but they should get something that doesn't have any sort of, they gotta stay away from harsh chemicals, because a lot of shampoos have detergents in it. And a lot of them have foaming agents that do nothing but just give you bubbles because the bubbles make people feel like, oh, I'm really doing something. But it's not true. You don't need bubbles to have a clean scalp. So it really depends on what products people are using. There's a lot of great shampoos out there, ours included, but there's a lot of great shampoos out there that um, that will not dry out your scalp and you can use on a daily basis. But generally speaking, um, it's case by case. Like if you find that using a shampoo every day is drying your scalp and not making your hair, is taking the oils, the natural oils out of your hair, so it's getting a little dull, then maybe only shampooing twice or 3 times a week is a better option. Um, brushing your hair is always it's twofold. It's really it's one of those things that some people are like, oh yeah, brush your hair 100 times a day, and then some people are like, never brush your hair. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of fall in the middle because there is natural shedding when you brush your hair. We naturally shed. It's part of the growth cycle. The
Mm-hmm.
hair, it grows, it rests, and then it sheds. And that's about a 6 month period, more or less. It varies from person to person, but so that's how our bodies work. That the hair grows, and then at some point it disconnects. So it's a resting phase. So it stops growing and it stops and it kind of disconnects from the follicle, and then a new hair starts growing. And as that new hair starts growing, it starts pushing the old hair out.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's the shedding cycle, and then the new hair comes up, and it's a constant cycle. So shedding is not a bad thing. It's only when it gets excessive
Right.
that there's something that needs to be looked at.
Yeah. Can you talk about the probiotics that you guys use in the product, like
Yeah.
specific probiotic strains?
I don't have that. I don't have the specific strains.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that. The probiotics that we do have though, we have them in for the purposes of balancing the microbiome of the scalp or the root of the hair.
Okay. No, I mean, I think that's awesome. We're learning so much about how we have all of these different microbiomes everywhere, right? Like
Yeah, everywhere.
the oral cavity and the gut and on the scalp, so on the
Everywhere.
skin.
Yeah, and I didn't actually because gut health is so important for our overall well-being of
Mhm.
everything, really. Like everything seems to be connected somehow to gut health. So I've
Yes.
always been very, very aware of probiotics from that aspect. But then I started noticing them in like, you know, various like skin creams or various, alternative products. I've always been very, you know, interested in alternative medicines and plant-based medicines and holistic approaches. And so I've always been seeking out this. And I started noticing that there was a lot of probiotics entering into this field in topical areas. And then then I started seeing it in laboratory studies popping up as well for the scalp and the hair. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. It's a pretty interesting thing because we know how strong they are for the gut.
Hmm.
So they probably topically they would have an effect as well. And we have had some pretty remarkable scalp recoveries from clients. Not intentional. Like we didn't like I was talking to someone the other day who said that they've had scabs on their scalp for years that they couldn't get rid of. Um, and then they start using our products and all their scabs went away. But we didn't like that wasn't the intention in making the product. We weren't trying to handle somebody's scalp issues, or we weren't trying to fix somebody's like flaky scalp issues. That wasn't what we were necessarily setting out to do. But as a byproduct of these ingredients, people are seeing some pretty cool like things, some pretty cool changes happening.
Yeah, that's amazing because it's not like it's not a bunch of chemicals, it's a bunch of like nourishing,
Yeah,
yeah, nourishing things to the scalp. So that's super cool. What about can you talk a little bit more about the stem cell part of it and how that
yeah,
works with the
absolutely.
product?
Yeah. So this was kind of cool because we never, again, this is just research based. We just started looking around. Now, when we say, just to clear the air of anyone who's having like stem cells.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of controversy around stem cells. However, all our stem cells are botanical except for one, which is called an adipose-derived stem cell, which comes from adults 18 to 35, and it's from fat cells. It's donated from fat cells. And if it's a simple Google search of adipose-derived stem cells, will open up like government websites actually where they've been researching the effect of the stem cell on follicles, and it's pretty compelling. But the reason why we picked this one is because of the results that it was getting in studies, really the only reason. But it's not it's not even in the controversial area. It's not one that's used for surgeries, at least as far as I know. I've only seen it used specifically for this purpose, where it's gangbusters. But stem cells are regenerative. They have the ability to focus in on other stem cells in the area and mold and rebuild to what is there. They're miraculous. They're really amazing in what they do. In fact, I know when my kids were born, there was this company that was offering to save all the blood from the umbilical cord, so that to save it for a later date in case they had health issues down the road, they could use the stem cells from that umbilical cord blood to help cure their health issues, which I thought that was pretty interesting. When we didn't do it, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there a point of no return for certain hair follicles where it
Uh-huh.
wouldn't work?
Yeah, definitely. If the scalp is shiny and bald, that means the
Okay.
follicle is dead, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And a lot of times, like women act faster than men in this area. They just do because unfortunately our society is not as accepting of women in with thinning hair as they are with men. I mean, it's just a societal standard. I don't think anyone's getting like kicked out of, a restaurant because of it, but it's just how our society works. So a woman, when she starts thinning, she panics and she acts quicker. And because of that, there's less damage, there's less thinning, and it's easier to help. Where a man will wait 10, 15, 20 years. And at that point, there's a lot of dead follicles mixed in with their living follicles, which is why it's never going to come back to 100% because there's a lot of dead follicles there. But once the follicle dies, nothing can be done. And like I said, an indication of that is areas that are shiny and bald.
Okay. Okay. What are some lifestyle changes that people can make to start to prevent or reverse their hair loss?
Oh yeah. There's a lot that you can do to help. It's more about helping encourage strong growth than preventing, because I mean there are things you can do for preventing for sure. But if you do have if you do have the DHT receptor sites on the follicle, like those little potholes I was talking about, and our bodies are always going to be producing testosterone, which means they're always going to be producing DHT. That's going to have to be addressed, the DHT on the follicle, not on the hormone level, because we don't. I personally, and as a company, do not believe in altering your body's hormones. Because I do think that our bodies are these incredible vehicles that we cannot understand, and everything is related to everything. So if you're going to change your hormone level, you're going to affect so many different parts of your body that you don't even know what you're affecting, because it's all intertwined, it's all related. So we don't want to mess with your hormones, but we do want to mess with that DHT on the follicle. We just want to get it off. So that's going to need to be addressed down the road. But in the meantime, for just encouraging healthy growth, there's maintaining like a good blood flow is important. So moving the body regularly is very positive. Having a diet that has a lot of healthy fats in it, a lot of omega-3s, healthy fats, and proteins are very important. Trying to stay away from environmental toxins as much as you can. Like, I know it's hard in our society because there's so many out there, but like hard water is not great for the
Hmm.
skin, the scalp, for the hair. Um, there's a lot of like heavy metals in our foods and in the environment that is not only incredibly toxic to our bodies and our minds, but also to our hair as well. That one's a little trickier to avoid.
Hmm.
Um, but if you can, any way you can, try, do. Um, it, a lot of like making sure that you're getting a good supply of nutrients, be it maybe it's supplements, or just eating well again, like including some sort of nice leafy greens, and along with your protein. Stay away from refined foods, are very bad for
Hmm.
your scalp health and your overall health and your hair production. Sugars are very bad as well. Um, if you're gonna eat like a bread or something, try to get a bread that has just like wheat or has flour, water, yeast, salt. Period. Try to stick with that kind of diet.
Hmm.
It's those kind of things in
Yeah.
general that will help in the long run.
Can you expand on the healthy fats and proteins? Can give some examples of those that
Sure.
you would
Um,
recommend?
yeah, absolutely. So salmon's great. It's a great because it has the omega-3. The only problem with salmon is also has mercury. And one of the things that mercury, one of the many awful things that mercury does for bodies is it counteracts with zinc.
Hmm.
So it takes the zinc out of your body, and zinc is an important element in healthy hair growth. So that's one of the things that mercury does. But the fatty acids, I mean the omega-3s and the fats, the healthy fats from salmon is great. Nuts and avocados also have like nice fats in them. Then there's also like things like yams, which have like nice vitamin A. There's leafy greens, which also have the iron, which is great. Liver um, is so good for your body and your hair if you can handle it.
Hmm.
It's a trigger liver if you can handle it. It's great. Um, what else? Those are the main ones. Water. It's very important to stay hydrated.
Hmm.
Again, it's not just, I mean, it's all related because a lot of times hair is an indication, and it can be an indication of overall body health too. So if you're keeping your body, you know, healthy and hydrated, your hair will look healthy as an indication. It's and it's not necessarily like I said, because the hair loss aspect has to do primarily with the DHT buildup. So you could have like thinning hair, but still have very healthy hair.
Yes.
You got to get that DHT off the follicle to help that follicle start producing more of that healthy hair.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are great recommendations. I love all the foods you listed and like even bringing up, unfortunately, the mercury that's in our larger fish nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, I do have an episode number 42 of my podcast where we talk about organ meats, like the whole episode with
Oh
Chef
yeah.
James Barry, and he actually
Okay.
gives some really reasonable and easy tips to actually get it into your diet in a way that's super like tasteful
Uh-huh.
and easy.
Like
So,
what's one?
oh my gosh. Um, well, first of all, I tell people all the time I buy a prepackaged blend that has 75% beef and 25% organ meats.
Uh-huh.
But he shared, like, hey, if you even want to save even more money or do it yourself, you buy the liver, keep it frozen.
Uh-huh.
You pull the block out of the freezer every time you want to use it. You take a cheese grater and you grind a little bit of that into whatever you're cooking. It could be a stir fry, it could be a meat blend, it could be a soup, like literally anything. And you can control that taste factor because you could still get in the nutrients, but even have like just a few ounces or something in there versus eating like this giant liver pate or
So
liver and
gross.
onions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
So that
wife
was one of the tips.
my wife tried to do that, but the grater is a good idea. But she tried because I have an 11-year-old who will not eat liver, hates
Hmm.
it, will not touch it. So my wife was making hamburger, and she had the ground meat, and she cut pieces of liver up, and put it in the hamburger and didn't tell anybody. And so
Mhm.
my 11-year-old was eating it. She's like, is there liver in here? Because just knowing there's liver in there, she will not touch it.
Yeah.
And my wife goes, well, I made some liver and I used the same cutting board, so maybe you're tasting some of that. And then that night, my wife was like, I feel so bad. I'm never gonna lie to you again like that ever. That was the worst thing
Aw.
I ever did. I can't do that again. I was like,
Aw.
I felt pretty bad too, because she knew it. She's like, there's liver in here, isn't there? And we're like,
Oh my
no.
gosh. I'm going to recommend you go listen to that episode number
Yeah,
42 because
I will.
he makes a product called Pluck. And here's a shout out to James Barry.
Yeah.
He makes Pluck, which is he started making it because of his daughter and his
Uh-huh.
kids. And they
Yeah.
take these organ meats, they freeze dry them from New Zealand. They're all grass-fed beef and
Uh-huh.
everything. And he makes a seasoning out of it. And so the seasoning tastes like very like umami, and he's got garlic flavors and all the different flavors. And his kids love it. They put it on everything like popcorn and their lunch, their dinner. And it's literally just like a normal seasoning, but they
Oh,
have
that's
that
cool.
component. So it's good for kids.
Yeah,
That's for
that's
sure.
cool. I wish
Yeah.
I got that episode
Yeah.
then.
Okay. So we're getting close to the end. Do you have any other things that you like burning things you want to say about your guys' products or any success stories, anything like that?
Yeah, well, the main one of the big things is that, like I said, we want people to call. Like people can definitely, there's tons of information on our website, moreheadnaturally.com, tons of information there. Um, and a lot of people don't want to call, they just want to jump in, and that's great. Um, but also on the website, there's phone numbers. I make sure the phone number is everywhere because we want, we want to make sure people get results. We want to talk to people because our ultimate goal is to help people get their confidence back, feel good about their appearance, and have that leak into their overall self-esteem. And so we want to help people. We want to help people get back on track. We want to, if it, because it could be a diet thing, it could be an exercise thing, it could be a lifestyle change, it could be there's so many factors that we could possibly help with. So we do encourage people to call, and we do have people here who that's what they do is they take those calls, and they're very trained and knowledgeable and studied, and they take those calls and they just talk and help. So we do encourage that as well.
Mhm.
And there's not, that's not a charge. No one has to pay for that. That's just what we like to do that. But it's really just, it's so imperative that people just do something, because oftentimes people will call and they'll be like, yeah, I've tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. And we're like, and every time it's like, you know what? You made a decision and you took an action, and I bet you it helped more than you think. You know,
Mhm.
I bet you, even though you didn't see those crazy results that you wanted, it probably slowed something down. It probably made a change. It probably helped you just know that you did something, that you took an action. So, like, the most important thing for someone can do is to act and just to do something as opposed to nothing. Because the worst condition that a human can live in is in a condition of indecisiveness. If you're stuck in a decision, it's the worst it's the worst condition that a person can be in. It
Mhm.
just is. So we like to help people get out of that and just decide. Maybe it's not with us, but at least they're deciding not to go with us. you know that's still a decision. We
Yeah.
we we like them to decide to go with us, but at least they're deciding. And that's just as important, as that's
Yeah.
more important than being stuck in an I don't know, or stuck in the research. I just did air quotes. The research of it, because
Yeah.
research is important, but research often is an excuse to not act as well.
Mhm. No, I think those are also really encouraging words for any kind of health problems as
Yeah,
well. Because, like, yeah, I talk to people all the time, or like, I've tried, like you said, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this. And some people get to that point where they really want to give up. But I always encourage people, like, you probably haven't found the right thing, or you haven't tried enough things. Like, you
right.
just keep pushing and keep going
Yeah.
until you get the right help that you need to see the results that you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. I want to do a 5 question speed round. Are
Okay,
you open to that?
do it.
Okay. First thing that comes to your mind. Question one is, what is your favorite thing to do for stress reduction?
Hike.
Hiking. Okay.
I live in California. I live in Los Angeles, and there's a lot of things people can say about Los Angeles, but one that no one can dispute is it's beautiful. I have the beach 30 minutes one way. I have the mountains 5 minutes the other way. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have amazing mountains here in
Oh,
Arizona, but we're missing the beach part, so that makes me a little
yeah.
sad. Okay, question two. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Um, the ability to see the truth. Now, okay,
Ooh.
here's why I say that. Because like what if you could uncover corruption? You know what I mean? Like what if like there's that politician that you know is destroying the world and you could see the actions that they took to do it and you could prove it and show it. You
Wow. We'd live in a different world.
We live in the world, I know.
Be very different.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the last song you listened to?
Um, U2's I Will Follow. I'm listening to Bono just released his autobiography, and I'm have the audiobook and I'm listening to it. And so I was listening to it and I was like, I'm gonna listen to that song. So he talks about it all the time.
Very cool. What's the best purchase you've made in the last year that cost you less than $100?
I will plug this company. I got a it's this they make these wool slippers. The company's called Babushka, and they make these wool just slippers that for like around the house because we do our best. We try not to wear shoes in our house. Um,
Hmm.
so I got these like just slippers, and they're all wool. They have leather soles, and they're just ridiculously comfortable. They're easy to put on. They don't look ridiculous, um, and they're very warm. And I was very happy with them. Every time I put them on, I'm like, I'm so happy with this purchase.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah,
Okay, last one. If you could leave the listeners with one tip that they could implement this week to help them live a healthier, happier life, what would that be?
don't hesitate on anything. Like if you have a thought, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Because it's, I mean, and there's a lot of people say that, and there's like the
Hmm.
5 second rule and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's true. We know. We always know. Like we intrinsically are brilliant geniuses who know everything, but we just kill it. We kill it. I kill it. I'm talking for myself. I'm talking to me. You know, you have that spark of inspiration from the universe, and then you're like, yeah, it's not going to work. I'm tired. It's a lot of traffic, and then it's gone.
Hmm.
It's gone. But the spark is a habit. Like listening to it's a habit. So
Yeah.
like a good game to play is like if you go to a restaurant, like open the menu and just pick. Don't like read and choose. Just pick. If you go to like Starbucks and someone asks you like, do you want a large? Just decide yes or no. Just say it. You know, like don't like those little things. Like don't think if somebody says, "Hey, which color do you like? Do you like the blue or green?" Green. Like
Yeah.
don't like get into like don't get into it. Just
Yeah.
just go with it. You
Think
know,
about how much time you'll save
so much time. But it's a
and
good.
stress. Yeah.
I try not to think. I try just to go. You know.
Well, and that's another thing is intuition as well. Like not just simple decisions like what size should I get, what color should I get, but also like is this someone who I want to go into business with? Is this someone who I want to go into a relationship with? Is
Yes.
this am I getting a good vibe from this? But like the intuitive gut instincts that we get that a lot of times will shut down and like challenging yourself to follow those right away more and see how that pans out versus like waiting and waiting and waiting. And then you're like, oh man, I knew it. I knew that thing. Like I knew that was right or that was the wrong decision.
So true.
Listening to that.
It's
Yeah.
so every time I've like been in a bad relationship,
Mm-hmm.
I knew it from the day one. I knew it from day one. And then you talk yourself out of it. Like
Yeah.
when I was dating, you know what I mean? Every single bad relationship, I knew it. The second I met her, I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
But she was very beautiful, or there was something, and I talked myself out of it. And then a couple months later, or maybe even longer sometimes, you're like, I knew it the day one that this was the person I was dealing with. Or every sort of bad business relationship I've been in, there was something wrong from the get-go.
Yeah.
But they were very smart. They had a good track record. They built successful businesses before. You know what I mean? But you talk yourself out of it. But instantly, you
Yeah.
know,
It's
every
incredible. The
every
human
time,
body is incredible.
every time I know. But it's an ongoing lesson. I'm still not, because it's easier to go against your gut.
Yeah.
It's less scary to go against your gut, because your gut doesn't have logic attached to it. It just has knowingness attached to it. So when you try to fill it with logic, it you logic yourself out of it, because you can come up with every excuse in the world not to do something productive. Like, in dating, you meet someone who's very, cool or awesome. So everything's like, oh yeah, but that they're not good people. You can tell right away, you know? So, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so much easier to just like, I'm gonna date this person. It's harder to be like, no, I'm not. And you're still alone. You know what I mean? You go home by
Yeah.
yourself, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the hard choice, but that's the right choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was a fun episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to put your link to the morehairnaturally.com.
Uh,
And then we also have a code for listeners, which is Rachel12. So RACHEL, one, the number one, the number two. So 12 to get 12% off of any products. So that's exciting for people, for listeners only. And yeah, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
I'm glad that we made this happen.
Me too. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video and comment, letting me know what you enjoyed and what you want to see more of. Also, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get alerts when new content is coming out and you don't miss any videos. And just a quick reminder that this information is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or medical condition. Please consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise routine, supplements, or medical treatment. If you're looking for a functional medicine practitioner, please reach out to me. And thank you again for watching, and keep striving to become your healthiest, happiest self.